Hey, I'm Alexi, and this is what you should know. Thank you so much for being so patient with me not being here last week. I was so very sick. But I am here. I'm not sure if I still sound sick. I definitely still have a bit of a chesty cough happening. And I'm back in my closet in my hoodie because it is almost winter and I am cold. But this is what it is. I do have some exciting news that is sitting in the pipelines waiting to come to fruition. I do not want to say too much because I don't want to jinx it. But two things in the pipelines, both very exciting if it comes to fruition, and I'm hoping that you do enjoy it when it comes out. So keep an eye out and interact with me on my stories when I post things. Please, 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 please. It would mean the absolute world to me because it gives me an idea of what you're into. I'm most active on my little Instagram at What You Should Know Australia. So to let you all into my life a tiny bit, I do work for a bank and have been considering doing some finance-based crime episodes for a while. So whether that's like a heist or Ponzi schemes or anything else like that, it would be really fun. And after some consideration with the requests from a friend, I have finally picked one. But before we get into what you should know about Melissa Caddick, I want to get into what you should know about Ponzi schemes. The Money Smart government website describes Ponzi schemes as investment scams that pay existing investors with funds collected from new investors. There is no real investment. Ponzi scheme promoters use money deposited by early investors to pay the first share. Investors feel comfortable and decide to invest more. They often encourage their friends and family to then join in. Eventually, all Ponzi schemes fall apart. They collapse when the promoter spends the money too quickly or the pool of investors dries up. Commonplace red flags for Ponzi schemes is the rate of return is suspiciously high. The return rate may be as high as 10% per month. Someone you trust tries to recruit you. It could be a trustworthy neighbor or someone in your community group. The recruiter has already invested in the scheme and received great shares. If you think you may have invested in a Ponzi scheme, you need to stop investing money into it immediately. Check if the company is on the list of companies you should not deal with on your government website. Check the company's license number or their ABN. Every business should be leaving a paper trail to be able to find them with complete transparency. Ponzi schemes do not. Report the scam to the relevant authorities. For Australia, that would be the Australian Securities and Investment Commission, also known as ASIC. And be sure to warn your family and friends to stop them from becoming victims. Now we've covered the very basic here, and I feel I shouldn't have to warn you to not invest in a Ponzi scheme, but honestly, it happens. Just remember the old saying, if it's too good to be true, very likely that is the case. Now in 1998, before she was Melissa Caddick, Melissa Grimley had landed a job running the Sydney office of a recently opened boutique investment house through a friend that she had worked with through the NRMA. She was organised, efficient and reliable. She dressed in high chic fashion. However, 6 months into her new position, someone from the firm's interstate head office had questioned some discrepancies showing up between invoices and payments. The copies of the checks for these payments were located, and it became clear that Melissa had been forging her boss's signature. She was called into her boss's office, where she was shown the checks, and she knew she was done. She was offered a generous ultimatum where they told her that they could escalate it or she could leave immediately. Melissa made a hasty departure, packed her personal belongings into her designer handbag. She'd stolen less than $2,000, and she didn't offer to pay it back. And rather than going through the trouble of calling the police, the firm didn't ask her to. They were just happy to see her leave. However, with hindsight, it was a crying shame, because a criminal record might have helped prevent what was to come. To add to this, old friends of Melissa would recount instances of her sticky fingers. One friend, who remained anonymous, had been quoted as saying, "We'd be at dinner, and she'd say, 'That's a beautiful butter knife,' and then she'd steal it." On separate occasions, she admitted to a pair of salt and pepper shakers at her home were stolen from a restaurant in Paddington. A theory exists saying that what started her descent into her delinquency was triggered in her early 20s when she suffered a breakdown after being the victim of a con man who stole from her family and eventually her, maxing out all of her credit cards and then running away. She struggled for a time, refusing to believe the man was a con artist, and ran away with him, only to end up financially ruined and emotionally destroyed. This is what likely was the start of her villain chapter, as I have seen it referred to on TikTok. The only difference is people will have a villain chapter where they are more assertive and blunt. This woman stole millions of dollars and ruined the lives of those around her. Tony Caddick was originally a builder from England. He met Melissa after she had been fired from stealing just under $2,000. And on the 20th of April, 2000, one day just before Melissa's birthday, they married at the Garrison Church in Millers Point, Sydney. And in 2006, they were blessed with a son. To keep it short, Tony studied political science back in England. Later, he completed his law degree and was admitted as a solicitor, and in 2010, the family moved abroad to Essex to live closer to Tony's family while commuting daily to his job in London. During this time, Melissa bought a 25% share of a successful financial planning business, Wise Financial, after borrowing $750,000. But this career option wouldn't last, and she felt quite disillusioned that she wasn't allowed to break ethics or rules that prevented planners from directly recommending property and shares to clients. Due to this, she started to spin a series of false stories about receiving huge payouts from the company, one of which was for an $86 million business deal she made up, and another for a sexual harassment case that never actually happened. It was around 2012 that her marriage with Tony Caddick fell apart, as she was caught cheating in Paris. She had claimed she had been on a business course in Switzerland, but was in fact having an affair with her hairdresser and current husband, Anthony Caddick. This relationship had started falsely, like everything else in her life. She had lied, falsely accusing Tony of abusing her, saying he cheated on her, and lied about his job. This is a very common practice with narcissists. It is known as an emotional appeal, where they disguise false or outrageous claims. Since many narcissists tend to be drama kings or queens, using over-the-top emotionality to control others comes very naturally for them. So in this case, she would have used these stories of abuse to get what she wanted from Anthony Caddick, and he would have been a very easy target after hearing these stories. But this then would have been used in conjunction with various other tactics, such as false flattery, where they ply listeners with pseudo-compliments, hoping to get things in return. False promises, false compromise, acting as if what you have to say is beyond outrageous, even if it is a fair and rational statement. They dehumanize, use statements out of context and slogans to make things seem like what they have to say are reasonable, such as, "It's nice to want things." When bombarded with the full assault of old tactics, it is hard to pull yourself away from this, and Anthony Caddick would have been defenseless and taken the bait, hook, line, and sinker. In 2013, once the divorce between Melissa and Tony Caddick was finalized, it was then Melissa married Anthony Caddick. But while what she did was morally dubious, her real steps into the criminal world happened between 2012 and 2020 by creating a Ponzi scheme. See, aren't you glad I gave you the rundown on what that is? Now you're not going to be super lost. In this, she had convinced more than 60 people to entrust a combined $30 million of their savings to facilitate her fictitious business, Malava, none of which she actually invested on their behalf. Out of that $30 million, only about $7 million was recovered and returned to clients, leaving $23 million unaccounted for. It isn't known for sure where that missing amount went, but with the life of luxury she was leading, it can only be assumed a percentage went to that. That would include her $6.2 million mansion that she had purchased in 2014. A picture from July of 2018 that I shall post on both Facebook and Instagram shows Melissa and Anthony on a makeshift red carpet at her son's school gymnasium. In that picture, the combined worth of their outfits was $400,000. That's enough to buy a house. I can't get my head around that. Like, you can buy a 3-bedroom house for that amount that they're wearing. And as that is just one set of outfits, it isn't hard to imagine between cars, holidays, full wardrobes, as well as Anthony Coletti playing the role of Sugar Baby, I would be willing to say she very easily spent every cent of it. Heck, one diamond ring from Canturi Jewelry cost $300,000. It's very obvious I'm not from money because I can't even comprehend why you would want a piece of jewelry that expensive. Now, part of her act would be that Melissa would commonly tell those interested in her business that she was too busy to help them, but would later tell them that they were in luck, somehow finding time for them in amongst her busy schedule. The 7-page brochure that she handed out for Malava lied about her credentials. You see, she was not a certified financial planner and did not have a master's of business. She even went so far as to use someone else's Australian financial services license, a life insurance broker, that she had insured herself with. Once she accepted the investors, she would deposit money into Malava's Commonwealth Bank account, and Melissa would create a bogus ComSec share trading account. These quote-unquote accounts featured a 6-digit number, whereas the genuine ComSec account numbers have 8. Once this process would start, she would then also forge her clients' signatures where required, unless of course it was required for a justice of the peace to witness them. I say that, but her father-in-law was also a justice of the peace and would occasionally forge his signature too. At the end of each month, she would falsify ComSec reports for her investors. The shares she invested her clients' funds into never suffered a loss, not even a slight dip. Instead, they showed amazing returns, at points somehow managing to skyrocket up to 30% per month. Dazzled by these returns, her investors would put more money in, and via word of mouth, talk of Melissa Caddick's impressive returns spread like bushfire. The saddest part is that most of her victims were friends and family, many of whom lost their entire life savings, leaving them in a position where they will never be able to retire. She even ripped off her doting parents, Barb and Ted Grimley, her older brother Adam, her aunts, uncles, and cousins. She ripped off friends that she'd had since she was a child, as well as their families, her personal trainer, her 2 employees, and a group of Perth surgeons, one of which was a university friend of her brother. Melissa can't claim ignorance. She knew it was illegal to operate without a license. Doing so can attract a $22,000 fine and 2 years of jail. Her solution to this had been to ask a former work friend if she could use her license. This friend wisely told her no, but Melissa had gone ahead and used it anyway. Unfortunately, her friend had no idea what was happening and continued working with Melissa, in which she referred clients to her friend for insurance broking services. Her scams, however, started to unravel when a potential client did some research on documents they had been provided. They notified the woman whose Australian financial services license she had used, and that woman notified ASIC. They recorded the complaint at the time, but took no action. Finally, another complaint was made in June of 2020, which had more detail, and ASIC applied to the federal court to freeze her assets and seize her passport. On November the 11th, 2020, just before 6 a.m. and accompanied by Australian Federal Police agents, ASIC officers raided Melissa Caddick's home. Melissa worked from home, so the officers took with them phones, computers, 2 stacks of filing cabinets from an office, and documents from storage under the stairs. This was a long process, as by the time they left, it was almost 7 p.m. In the early hours of November 12, 2020, Melissa Caddick left her home. Her son heard the front door open and close in the early hours of that morning and assumed his mother was just going out for a usual morning run, but no one has seen her alive since. She had left her phone, keys, and wallet at home. I am unsure how someone can feel comfortable enough to go for a jog by themselves without a phone on them, but then again, I have never lived a life even remotely similar to Melissa Caddick's. Maybe she was a secret ninja, or felt that the millions of dollars would keep her safe, even if they were in frozen accounts. However, she was declared dead 4 months after her disappearance in February of 2021. This was when a decaying foot was found on the beach 400 kilometers south of Sydney. The foot was DNA matched to Melissa Caddick. This has left nothing more than a flurry of theories. The most logical theory is that Melissa had scammed the wrong person and was taken out for her crimes. After all, as one of the law firms that had come forward to represent the victims of Melissa had said, some of our clients are at or very near retirement. If their lifetime savings cannot be accounted for and recovered, the impact on their lives will be immediate, substantial, and life-changing. So it really wouldn't be much of a stretch to believe that maybe some older client bought into it and had cried about it to a friend or family member. Perhaps this person was well connected, or already quite violent. It wouldn't have been hard to find her, a 49-year-old woman, out for a run by herself with nothing on her. Unfortunately, that does make her an easy target. But that's just one theory. Another theory is that Melissa realized that there was no escaping from the position she was in, and instead decided to commit suicide. The police marine rescue teams calculated the tides and drift patterns and deemed it highly possible that Melissa entered the water in the Dover Heights area on November 12th and drifted down. Assistant Commissioner Michael Willing stated that while foul play was possible, suicide was more likely, and has been quoted as saying, "Given the circumstances of the disappearance and the fact that she left personal belongings behind, we've considered the possibility that she may have taken her own life." The other theory comes from the ever-competent police commissioner, Mick Fuller. You all remember Mick Fuller, right? One of the boys having a pissing competition regarding the William Tyrrell case? Yeah, that Mick Fuller. He put forward that we cannot know if it was suicide or foul play. However, he has also put forward the bizarre suggestion that Melissa could have cut off her own foot to throw the police off her scent, and she could still be out there somewhere alive, missing a foot. Strange theories definitely are afoot. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. That one had such a large reaction that the joke is she now lives in Bali and has a solid gold prosthetic foot. I am not saying Mick Fuller is wrong, but I am definitely not saying that he is right. Another theory is the tried and true statement that the husband did it. It feels wrong in this case, though. During their marriage, Anthony didn't hold steady employment and had tried to start a career as a DJ. He was evicted from the mansion on the 18th of May this year and has made requests for personal property including 5 John Olsen paintings, a Gucci wedding dress, a Louis Vuitton watch, and several items of white gold jewelry to be delivered to him for his exclusive use. While he had no real income during the marriage, Anthony had said that he had used almost all of his income to support his wife and her son, and that since Melissa's disappearance, has allegedly paid around $500 per week to take care of her son. Or to put it plainly, Anthony Coletti, who had contributed next to nothing, is throwing a tantrum demanding a large amount of money from his wife's estate. Killing Melissa would not have provided him with any extra money. It has very clearly put him in what he considers dire straits. So why would he have killed the golden goose? But that being said, he also acted quite suspiciously. He has shown no emotion at all when talking about his missing wife. Allegedly, he has no apparent knowledge on what went on, and is in full denial of her illicit activities. He never questioned his wife about what went on. According to him, he spent time driving around looking for her for weeks after she went missing, playing his music so she might hear it. And I may just echo what many others have said regarding that, but, what? She is a woman, not a cat. Like, if your cat gets out and it's an indoor cat, the best thing you can do is put out the litter box so that way they can come back to the scent that they recognize. This is a woman, not a cat. I can't connect the dots on his logic here. He is so dumb. That being said, he may have killed her. He really doesn't seem all that bright, and he didn't report her missing for 30 hours. Now that's the part that's suspicious. But that is honestly where that case stands at this moment. Ultimately, it may never actually be known what happened to Melissa. She may have cut off her foot and run away. Maybe the husband did it. I know there was word of other body parts that had washed up, and when I looked into it hoping for further clarity and insight, the torso that was found is not hers, and the bones that were found are actually animal bones. But the fun news for such a grim situation is that there is a new 2-part series for Underbelly that is being created to cover the speculations and theories on the disappearance. I do look forward to it, as it will show several dramatized but highly unlikely theories. So definitely keep an eye out for that if that is your jam. I know I will. But on that note, that is all I have for you this week. I will be posting some pictures on Facebook and Instagram, What You Should Know Australia. Email is whatyoushouldknowaustralia@gmail.com. If you do happen to know anything, please reach out to Crime Stoppers on 1-800-333-000. I have posted their link in the show notes, and I have also linked some helplines for assistance if you are facing issues with depression or financial strain. Always reach out if you are struggling. I promise the help is there. But until next week, stay safe and stay hydrated. Bye!